What is up, y'all? We are here for episode 9. Unserious. Like, this cast is crazy. Like, crazy. But if you're new here, hit subscribe. Do that real quick. Do that real quick. Give me a thumbs up as well. Y'all been killing it. Y'all been killing it. Get in the comments. Let me know what y'all think. Share the video. Subscribe. I'm trying to rush through this because Athlos is on. WNBA Finals is on. I'm trying to get this done. Let's go. All right, so we get back where we see just essentially everybody basically having their little scenes that they speed on through. But we're around the 14-day mark before it's the wedding, or at least until the wedding. We see Kalybriah and Edmund there at their apartment. He overnighted her package to go get some skates. Megan and Jordan there in their apartment. He made a chicken crystal light smoothie. Annie and Nick, he's helping her at her salon. Her hair still is a mess. Madison and Joe, they're bicycling around the city. But we see Megan and Jordan. They're essentially out looking at houses and whatnot. And they have this house. It's a nice house. It's definitely something that seems more in Megan's price range of what she actually wants. It's $1 to $2 million. You could see throughout this entire thing, the realtor showing them the house and whatnot. And when they start talking about pricing and the fact that it's like 6 bedrooms, you can see Jordan's like, there's no real need for him to have that. Whereas Megan, obviously, she's excited about it. Like, that's the type of lifestyle that she lives. But she's basically talking about, because he was like, I don't want to feel like I'm a financial burden because I'm not essentially going to be bringing too much to the table. But she's like, once we get rid of my LA home, basically once we sell it, we'll have like 1.5 million, and then we can go get a loan for the rest of it, the 500K. But he was like, I mean, it's a little too much house for what I feel like we would need. But we then go to Annie and Nick at their apartment, and she's pretty much talking about how she fixed her hair because his mom is a hairstylist. Her hair still looked a mess. It looked better than what it did, but it didn't look as well for somebody that is a hair salon owner. But his mom comes, his brother and his dad come. His mom pretty much is asking Annie, like, what made you fall in love with Nick? And she says everything was clicking. I said, yeah, okay. You mean to tell her essentially he said everything that you wanted to hear and that he knew that you needed to hear, and that's what made you fall in love. Like, you so desperate for the ring. That's really what it was. But her mom then asked, like, how y'all worked, pretty much asking them, like, how have y'all worked through disagreements that y'all have had? Have there been any big ones? And she pretty much states, like, she feels like we're good on the big stuff. Are you really? Because if y'all are disagreeing about the small shit, like the stupid shit, how do you really know what's big? Because, like, have they really had any big arguments? No. Like, the shit that they be arguing about is stupid, and it's really on her end. But she then says, like, she's pretty much learning how to communicate with him and can communicate to him. She still ain't, because at the end of the episode, she still was exhibiting those same traits. But he starts talking about how he's essentially always wanted to fix things, and his mom is like, that's his type of character. Like, that's typically how he is. He always wants to fix stuff. But his mom talks about how sensitive he is, how much of an old soul he has, and he's such a deep, special kid. That's true. But she walks away, and I'm talking about Annie. And he's sitting there with his dad, mom, and brother. And dad pretty much likes Annie. He says that she would fit well in the family. I said, really? His mom says that she's surprised how much she actually likes Annie, but they essentially give him their support. 12 days into the wedding, we see Allie and Anton. They're talking about meeting up with the cast tonight. As y'all know, we always have the whole cast, essentially. Not the whole, but most of the main characters come, the singles and the couples. So she's nervous because she thinks there's going to be some drama with the 9 couples. And he was like, yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of flirting going on. And she's looking at him, and he's like, with the singles. And she was like, good clarification. And he was like, I mean, that looked at you, mate. I'm like, I got to say that. And she's like, I mean, you can flirt if you want to. I'm not your mom. I said, and at this moment in time, I was wondering if they had that conversation already, because you could tell she still got that on her mind. And I'm like, did they even talk about it yet? But we still don't know yet for real. But everybody starts arriving to the event, and it's cowboy themed. They got this bull in the middle. The couples all arrive first, and Edmund gets on there and starts riding the bull. But the girls sit down and they start talking about the meeting with the families and whatnot. And Megan starts talking about how she met with Luca's mom. She clearly don't want to be on camera, just like she don't want Luca on camera. So, I mean, I respect it. But she then says that it essentially was chill and it felt normal, like being around her. So it went better than what she was probably anticipating. But she stated, like, there was no tension between us. There was no tension between the two of them. And she was like, essentially her biggest concern is having Luca on camera. She doesn't want him on camera, and that's what they're not going to do. The whole time she's talking, all the girls are essentially looking at her like they're interested and they're happy that it went well. And then there's Annie over there looking salty. I'm like, what is your issue? But Allie then starts talking about how essentially her and Anton have not met families yet. They've only met friends. I said, yeah, that's very telling. But she was like, I mean, it's interesting though, because when I met his friend's girlfriend, was telling me about Anton and her boyfriend going to strip clubs all the time, and that's not okay with me when you're in a relationship. And she says even when you're single, that's not somebody that she wants to be with. So she then says she's trying to figure out if she should trust the word of Anton because he pretty much told her, like, I'm not like that anymore, or should I trust this third party? I feel like you should pay attention to a little bit of everything, honestly. But she then says that she, like, he will come home from work after working them night shifts and be drinking beers, at least 1 or 2 beers in the morning. I said, oh, really? And it's like, I'm like, how do I feel about that? Drinking beer every morning is like, But then again, when you sit and think about it, that's like his only real time to do it, I guess, because like essentially his morning is what would be considered our night if you worked a full shift in the morning and you get off and you want to drink a beer. So I'm like, I don't really know how to feel about that. But she's like, that's not my lifestyle. But then again, coming home and drinking 1 to 2 beers, that's the thing. Drinking it every day, 1 to 2 beers, I don't feel like that's too bad of an issue. Maybe I'm tripping. I don't feel like that's 1 or 2. I don't feel like that's too bad. I don't know. But Patrick, he comes bopping in. When I say bopping in, like the way he walks, it's like he's trying to walk fast and then he takes larger steps. So when he walks, it's like he's so goofy. But he comes walking in, and Megan, Allie, and Annie, they're speculating on if Casey's gonna come in, and they want to know what happened. I said she just couldn't fake the funk no more. Like she got what she wanted out of it. She got her camera time, she got her TV time, and it's time to go back home to ex-boyfriend who's her real one. But Patrick is over there telling the boys that Casey pretty much told him that she wants to see him, like pretty much talking about whenever they left. She wanted to see him when they got back to Denver, so he thought that they were still engaged, but he hasn't seen her since. I was like, you should have picked up on them clues. Granted, she was kissing on him and stuff and being weird the way she was doing it, but it was clear she didn't want to be with him. Like she was basically stating all the things that would make you think that she doesn't want to be with you, even though she was kissing on him. But that's how you know Patrick is, he just don't know how to read a room. But he then says that she had texted him stating that she didn't want to do the show. It was too much. But you sat there the whole time. Like you was there for the premise of the show, essentially. Like you were in the pods the whole time. If that was the case, then you would have left. But Nick then says at that point, it wasn't about the show. Like when y'all left the show, y'all were no longer on the show. I said exactly. And Patrick then says, like, I was like, what are you doing tomorrow? Like after. And he says that she kept stating that she wasn't ready to see him. He still didn't get the hint. He said he asked her to call so he can talk it out. I'm like, there's nothing to talk out. She don't want you. Like the fact that she's literally stiff arming you, wake up. That's why I don't feel bad for him. Cause it's like he and Annie are similar. She so desperately just wants a ring. She just wants the attention. He so desperately just wants somebody to love him that he's going to take it from anybody that is giving him attention. And it's crazy, which we'll get to in a minute. But he then says that he asked to call her and talk it out. Like I said, he can't read the room. Joe says like she couldn't even take a phone call. I said, because she don't like him. That's why she didn't want to do it. But Patrick says that she just said that we should just tell everybody that we broke up for now. And then we can still, like, we still need to talk about shit. And he said that this was the first day when they got back. And he said that he agreed to doing it. I said, why would you do that? Like, what is wrong with you? Like, be real. But he then says that he had asked for the ring back. And she just stopped talking to him and pretty much gaslight him and was like, you sitting here acting like you're the only one that's hurt. Basically, so she could keep the ring, which in my mind, she gonna take that ring and go pawn it just like she wanted. Like she wants that money. Like that's really what it is. But he then says that was the last time that they had talked. So he says that what hurt him most was that it was like hours after they first met. We all knew she didn't like that man. I'm like, that's why you should have woke up and realized it was not that hard to see. But Kate arrives. Her and Madison, they hug. The boys tell Nick, you need to go on over there. He says, not right now. So Madison then brings Kate over to the boys, and Annie's over there watching because Nick's over there. And Nick and Kate, they cordially meet. He's looking at her like he might be possibly regretting something. That's how I was looking at it. But Anna then shows up. Anna. I said, oh, shit. It's time to talk about that ghosting. So Mike shows up as well. Jordan's like, that's my friend Mike talking to Megan as she pretty much gets introduced to him. He comes over and greets her. She says seeing and meeting him, there's obviously still chemistry there because they did date. Brendan walks in and the boys are geeked to see him. Brendan's a fan favorite, clearly, but not a fan favorite. He's a cast favorite. That's clear because like they were geeked when he came walking in there. Annie's sitting there talking about how Brendan was telling her that she's his person and she wanted him to fight for her, but he wanted everything to get handed to him And that's not what she was doing. I'm like, he dodged a bullet. Like, he literally dodged a bullet. And I'm glad he didn't fight for you. Like, I'm glad. But Joe then brings Brendan over there, and he and Annie greet and meet for the first time. And she's telling us he's giving her that same energy that he gave in the pies. So she's grateful that she made the decision that she did. I said, why would he be giving you the same energy when you literally are engaged? Like, you got chosen. So why are you? It's like she wants him to give her that same energy too. You want to be wanted. You want to be wanted so bad that it's weird. I'm like, why would he do that? But they all start line dancing with the instructor. I'm about to pause real quick because I'm about to watch this meet. Hold on. So we then see Brendan and Jordan. They're sitting there talking on the side, and Brendan's telling Jordan like, he's still a little bit hurt from the pies. So Jordan tells him like, watching Nick and Annie, like, they so quirky, it just makes sense for them to be together. Basically stating like, you and her shouldn't work, and it shouldn't. Brendan just don't realize that you dodged a bullet. And he's like, really? And he's like, yeah, she's so quirky and you're so smooth. It don't make sense. So Brendan's like, I mean, I still think that it would have worked. Jordan says, I don't. Basically, like, get over it. I'm right here with him. But Patrick, he starts talking to Jordan and Meg, and Mike is watching, and he's just pretty much like, Patrick is telling him how good they look together, yada, yada, yada. So Mike then walks up, goes to Jordan and asking he's still his girl, and he then pulls Megan and asks her if she wants to dance. I said, you disrespectful. But she says no, obviously, but they go and sit down, and they start small talk. She says, like, everything's been a lie, and he's like, is it a good, like in a good way? And she's like, yeah. So he then starts talking about how when he sees sparkles, he thinks of Sparkle Meg. So she was like, I mean, Jordan was turned off by the sparkles, and he said he was too. But he then apologizes for making her cry that night when he pretty much was like trying to force her to commit to him. And she was still in between him and Jordan. And basically she was crying now because he basically was about to leave her instead of having a conversation. But he was like, I mean, I understood that I should have let you process it. I didn't think about how it would make you cry and how it would make you feel. She says, I appreciate that, but like, I was hoping more from you. I was hoping to get more from you in that moment. Basically, like, instead of you running away, like, sit here and actually talk to me and talk through it and see what we can do instead of getting up and walking out. Cause like, how do I know that you're not gonna do that in the real world? And he says he wouldn't do that in the real world. She was like, but I didn't know. How was I supposed to know that? We was in the pies. Like, if you're gonna do that in the pies, who's to say you wouldn't do that in the real world? She had a point. But he then states that he had regretted that moment. But he then starts talking about how he would have essentially gotten her a better ring. Because he's talking about the ring. He's looking at the ring, talking about somehow how many carats he's got and yada, yada, yada. Basically be doing what he's been doing. He's like in a competition with Jordan in his head. He thinks that he's up here and Jordan's down here. So I got the money. Jordan don't. I would have given you a bigger ring than what you got right now. Just kind of like guilt tripping her. And she low-key eating it up because we know she materialistic too. Let's keep it real. But he talks about how he was tempted to slide into her DMs, but didn't do it. But that's his cocky side, and that's what he really wanted to do in the moment. But she was like, "What? That's what I was scared of. Like, that's what I typically dated, which is why I felt like I should have went with something different." But she then says, like, essentially, it just came down to trust, and if she trusted him to be faithful. And she then says that he essentially got everything that she wants, like career, financial stability. They're very similar in that aspect, and she feels like they would have fit well together, and she loved it. He then asked, do you feel like you made a mistake? She takes too long to say no. That's telling for me. That is telling for me. But we then move to Anna and Patrick. They sit down because he was talking to, who was over there? I think it was Kate, Nick, and I want to say Jordan was over there too. But they was talking, and he was pretty much telling them, like, Anna was my number one before she left. But he then says, whenever they went and sat down, that if she essentially would have stayed, they would have went the whole way. She was like, yeah, I mean, we should talk about that. So, well, this is before they went and sat down, but they sitting down now. But she then says that she felt bad ghosting him, and she just essentially said, like, it caught her off guard how much they were actually connecting on more than a friend's level. So he says, like, you should have essentially stayed, basically. But she then says, like, she was struggling with it. But then learning that he had gotten engaged, she was like, okay, I guess he's going to be okay then because it wasn't going to be me anyways. But he then says it was, though. It was going to be you. That's the craziest thing. She says, but how can you say that and still get engaged with somebody else? I said, you're right. Because if it really was going to be her the whole time, like if you really was going to choose her and really fell for her like that, when you found out she left, you would have left too. And then people would be like, oh, well, he wouldn't have had a way to get in contact. Well, yes, he would have. He could have talked to production. He could have talked to somebody, and they would have gotten them connected. If that's what it really was supposed to be, and it's called Love is Blind, the essential reason for being on the show is to find love. So if they find it, you don't think that they're going to find their way back to each other. But he then says, I got engaged because you left. Like, you were my number one. Casey was a distant number two. She says, but you still proposed. I said, exactly. He then says, like, I would have chosen you. And she said, I mean, it's not for you to say that. It's not fair for you to say that when you didn't. Like, you didn't choose me. And she then says, like, if I was in the back of your mind the whole time, you can't pretty much ask somebody to marry you, which is the truth. Like, if you really were 1000% sure that you wanted to marry her, you would not feel the need to go propose to somebody else. It doesn't make sense. Like, it literally makes no sense. But then it proves that he is just so desperate for somebody to actually give him attention. So Casey basically told him everything that he needed to hear, and he ate the shit up. And now look at him. Now look at him. But she then states that the facts are you told somebody else that you loved them, and that's okay. She says, I cried when I left. You didn't realize that, but I cried when I left. And he was like, over who? She says, you and Blake. I'm not going to lie to you. Like, I did. I didn't tell anybody else, though, that I loved them. And he then says that he was dead set on her, and he told her, too, that she had told him essentially, like, when you know, that stuck with him all the way to the end. He then tells her, too, that she knows him better than anybody else, and he was going to ask her to marry him. I'm like, Patrick, give it up. And you can tell she's so detached. She's so detached. But Nick and Annie, they're talking to Edmund. Here we go. Edmund is sitting there talking about how, like, we're all great, but I'm not perfect. Annie, being Annie, Nick is perfect. I said, yet you stated all that shit that you stated to him before, but okay. But Edmund is like, damn, it's nice to hear that. That would be crazy to hear that. And he said that, and Kalybriah is standing right there next to him, and she's getting closer, and you could tell he's stating this because he wants her to hear it. So he was like, just to hear it, like, you're so lucky to hear somebody saying that you're perfect. Kalybriah's like, what? So then she then asked him, like, are you comparing your relationships? He is. He says, no, it just would be nice. So you're comparing. Like, you heard what she said and you wanted that to be said to you. You're comparing it. Like, come on. But Kalybriah says, like, you can admire, but don't compare. She's 100% correct. But I don't know why she's sitting here dealing with this. Like, throughout this whole situation, you can tell she's battling with the fact that she knows that they're just not right here together, like, essentially. But he says that he doesn't hear positive stuff from her. And I'm like, that's a lie, because we literally seen her pour into you essentially 8 episodes straight. Like, come on. But she then says, you don't. This is the place. Like, this is the place for you to start bringing this shit up. Like, we literally live together. We've been sleeping together, and you haven't told me any of this, but you wait until this moment to do it when there's a whole group of people here. It's because he's easily influenced by other people. Like, he doesn't have his own mind. But he then says that he doesn't want to do this here. I said, yet you started it. Like, you were saying that stuff to make sure that she heard you so that she could come over here and do this. But she then says, you the one that brought it here. But they start going back and forth. And she talks about how, like, essentially, I've been cheering you on this whole time. I've been vibing with you. And she was. When he was on that bull, she's sitting there taking pictures and doing all of this and taking videos and, oh, that's my man. That's my man. What you talking about? That's nice. That is nice. But she then says, because he was like, I mean, I know. And she's like, stop cutting me off. And she was like, you started it. Like, what did I do to make you start this shit with me? But they start going back and forth again about her not saying anything nice to him. I'm like, this is so childish. But she walks away saying that he's being fucking weird. And then he comes back over to her and tells her that he loves her. Like, that's his way of, like, smoothing it over. I love you. No, address the shit. Address it. But she then says, like, I don't want to hear that. He turns away from her. And then she's like, I mean, if you can't be an adult and talk to me, I don't want to hear it. He then proceeds to keep going back to telling her how much he loves her. And she's like, I don't know how many times I got to tell you. When I'm upset, I don't want to hear that. I want to hear solutions on how we can fix what we're going through. That's when you realize you're dealing with a child, Kalybriah. You're dealing with somebody who is not there mentally. And when I say not there mentally, he's not ready to be in a marriage. Like, he's not. So, their conversation's going nowhere, like I said. But he walks back over to the group, and the group is like, what's going on? And he's like, I'm about to die tonight. And they telling him, like, go back over there, take accountability. Kalybriah then goes to the bathroom crying, and Madison's in there comforting her. I found it interesting how Madison was the only one that went over there. Crazy. When there's a whole group of girls. But maybe they didn't see it, but most of them did. But Nick, he's talking to Kate, and he tells her that he owes her a huge apology. And he's being Nick. Like, talking about, I've never felt like I loved two people at once, so I was taken aback. I didn't know how to communicate it properly, that I do love you, but I was feeling those same feelings for something. I said, please, Nick, please. Annie's insecure self is sitting over there watching. And Kate was like, I mean, I felt like my emotions were taken advantage of. And for you to sit here and take that I love you back so quickly, you're basically disregarding the person's feelings. I said, exactly. So he then starts talking about how he had other connections and whatnot. And she was like, I mean, you basically stated that you hadn't said the things that you had said to me to other connections, which he did say that. And not only that, he did go and say the same shit that he said to her to Annie. Like, but she then says, like, when I found out that y'all were engaged, I was like, what the hell? Because, like, you was stating all this stuff to me like I was the one. And for you to then, pretty much the same situation, Patrick, like with Anna, like, he making it seem like she was his number one, yet you so quick to go jump and propose to somebody else a couple days later. But he then says, like, he never said that he couldn't get there with Annie. And she was like, yeah, you did. But he then says that he essentially got the reciprocation from Annie that he didn't get from her, which is why he had to break it off. And he says that he hates how he wasn't as honest as he should have been when it came to breaking it off with her. But he then says that he even told Annie about him loving Kate. I don't believe that. And neither does Kate. She was like, you really did. And you could tell she didn't believe it. But he tells her that he genuinely cares about her and he hopes that they can be friends outside of this, even if they're not buddy-buddy. She's like, I mean, we cool. Like, you could tell she over it at this point. But Annie, she's talking to Allie and some no-name that was there on the show, but we didn't know who she was. So she didn't have a storyline and she wasn't shown. But she's she's basically stating, like, Nick is over there trying to clear the drama up with Kate. And Allie was like, he essentially was love bombing Kate. That's essentially what it is, which he was. And Annie denies it, but it's like, how do you know? You weren't even in there. Like, you weren't privy to their conversation. So what are you talking about? Like, no, he didn't do that. But Allie was like, that's the story I got from Kate because that's what it was. But Annie's talking about interesting. But Nick comes over there to Annie and she being a child. Like, he trying to talk to her and stuff and she being standoffish. I'm like, if you have an issue, address it. Stop doing that. I can't stand when grown people act like that. If you really have an issue, stop being just talk about it. Like, state what it is. But Madison, she's telling Kate, like, there's multiple people here that don't like Nick because we think that he's calculated and fake. Because he is. But Madison says, like, her and Joe's, their physicality has kind of shot up right now. I said, I doubt it. I doubt it because he's fake too. I'm like, you saying the same stuff. You say the same stuff about Nick that could apply to Joe. But Joe is over there talking about how he's had so many shots. I'm like, is deja vu coming? And of course, the intense music starts and they start showing little scenes of everybody. And it's kind of like foreshadowing what's coming for the next episodes. So I'm pretty sure the next couple episodes, we definitely gonna get into some mess because we're getting closer and closer to the wedding. But yeah, if y'all got through this, give me that. Get in the comments, subscribe if you're new. And I will see y'all next either Wednesday or Thursday or Friday. So I'll see y'all then. Peace.